This is part 2 of that chapter. Go back to my profile and find part 1 if you're just joining. So anyway, I just felt like I could never make any progress with him, and my birthdays and anniversaries and things that were marking time just became a reminder of all the wasted effort. Instead of being excited about time passing, I was dreading another celebration of time passing. And it kind of all came to a head when I was pregnant with our 5th, and we had a house party at the house, and lots of friends over, and he had too much to drink. That was another issue he kind of dabbled with. He would occasionally drink too much. Part of our religion was kind of like that drinking wasn't really a good idea, right? And so he was pretty inconsistent with it. It wasn't like a regular everyday thing, but when he would drink, he had a tendency to go too far with it. So that night he went too far. It was uncomfortable to the point where I didn't want to have that group of people over again because he couldn't control himself around them. And the other men that were there were laughing and thinking it was hilarious that he couldn't even stand up straight to go upstairs when the kids called him. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I explain this to my kids that their dad is so out of control? Like, this is not right. But I'm still in that mode of trying to make it look like it's okay on the outside, because that's what's important. That's what was communicated to me my whole life. It's like whatever's happening in the home doesn't really matter. It's what people think is happening in the home that matters. So I'm trying to hold it together for these people that are over and the kids and just all this stuff, right? The dust is settling, and I'm 3 weeks away from having a baby, and I'm just like wondering if this is ever going to get better, wondering if things are ever going to be the way that I was hoping they would be in my head, and trying to figure out how I can make things better for me and my kids, and what I need to do to avoid all of this mess in the future. And the next morning I get a text from my best friend at the time, and she sends me screenshots of things that my husband at the time, was sending to her while he was sitting on the couch with me during the dinner party. And to say I was devastated in a different capacity, every other encounter had been people that were random, like people on the internet, right? Or coworkers, renting movies when he's on vacation, or not vacation, but like a work trip, or, all these things were like external. This was the first person that was internal and in our circle, and I was devastated. More came out in the months that followed. I had to make a choice. I was weeks away from having a baby. I had 4 children. I didn't really work at the time. I had a job. It was a part-time job that, then grew into a full-time job, but it was based at the church. My employment was at our church, and his father was the head pastor. And everybody that he had grown up with, his family members, like, they were all part of the church. So my only income was through the church, and I was able to work from home primarily, take the kids with me, and manage like their homeschooling that way, because my schedule was so flexible. I knew that if I left him, I wouldn't have a job anymore. And I was weeks away from having a baby. I didn't know where I would live. I didn't know what I would do. My father had made it very clear when I got married that I was never to come back, that I was to stay and make it work with my husband. And I don't want to say that in a way that makes my parents seem terrible. My parents were very involved, very loving parents. They were the world's best grandparents you could ever ask for. But my dad felt strongly that when you decide to marry someone, you leave your father's house and you go to your husband's house. And I think in hindsight, he probably didn't want me coming home over small little ridiculous arguments. I think that's what he was saying, but my black and white, like super logical brain heard don't come home for any reason. I left my husband after my dad passed, so I don't know. But based on the conversations that I had with my mom, if they had known what was going on behind closed doors, they would have not only welcomed me and my children home, they would have set us up with a new house and, like all the things to make our life better. But that's not what was communicated to me. I felt completely alone. I had no one to talk to about it because everyone I talked to said it was my fault. That didn't sit right with me, but I didn't have another perspective. You have to understand, when my entire world is wrapped up in this tiny little circle of church people, and it's the same people that I work with, that the kids are hanging out with, that my friends are with, our community outreach projects. I'm in this tiny little bubble. I have no concept of any other version of reality. I mean, my entire life, it was that same little bubble of like the school people, the church people, all the people are all the same people. And we, I think in some ways it was very cult-like, because it's kind of taking over your whole life and you have no way of seeing through it to another side. And you're never encouraged to look at any other side of it. And there's some of us who left, and we now jokingly refer to it, our little group, as the ex-cult members. But at the time, I didn't know that there was another way to live. And so I only had this input in my life, and I could tell that it wasn't right. I could tell that it was slowly killing me and ruining things in so many ways, but I didn't know what to do about it. So I stayed with him. I made the choice to stay. I told him that emotionally our marriage would never be the way that it was, that there was probably no hope for that to go back, but that I would stay because I didn't have any other options, and that we could maybe try to find something new. If, he could behave correctly and stop trying to go outside of our marriage in all these various different ways. Like the stop the cat and mouse game, I said maybe there is a way, but I can't promise that. And right now I just needed to focus on myself, my own health, and raising the children. He accepted that with the tears and the apologies and the I'm sorries, and it's always going to be different and all that stuff. It was never different. It was never different. And some people say that I was manipulative at this point in the marriage. It wasn't my intention. I can understand how people would see it that way. I truly intended to stay and work it out. My dad died shortly after that. My mom was fighting cancer. I became her primary caregiver. We moved in order to make space for my mom to live with us, renovated the house, had to turn the downstairs into a mother-in-law apartment for her. Like, life just went on. Life went on. And we kind of fumbled around and tried to get through it and had some semblance of a family. It wasn't the same, but I wouldn't say that it was like terrible. If you ask my kids, they could tell that things were different, but couldn't quite put their finger on it. There was a lot of fighting still. There was a lot of hurt feelings. I was trying to make it work, and it clearly wasn't working. Sorry, it's going to have to be a part 3.